The New Jersey Devils get their top six forward via free agency, signing Anthony Mantha to a multi-year contract. Let's talk about whether it was worth it or not. Hi, I'm James Nichols, your host here at Devils Ring Report and Devils Beat reporter via New Jersey Hockey Now. If you like this kind of content, be sure to like the video and subscribe for more coming in the future. Let's get back to it. So let's start with the contract. A 2-year contract for Anthony Mantha via free agency with the Devils with an average annual value of $4.75 million. First glance, really good contract. Here's where it gets even better. The contract has no protection from trade. I don't like saying no trade protection. The wording gets a little jumbled and confusing. It's like, does he not? Does he? Not sure what he has. Does he have protection? He has no protection from trade, Anthony Mantha. So, for instance, if this doesn't work out, say in a year's time, and Sonny Meta feels like trading Anthony Mantha, he can. There's no restrictions. And I know Devils fans are not quite used to seeing something like that with the former regime handing out some trade protections kind of left and right. This one is different. Anthony Mantha, who, for all intents and purposes, might be one of the best signings skill wise in terms of a forward in recent years via free agency. He doesn't get trade protection, and that's the work of Sonny Meta. His negotiations are much different, seemingly, than Tom Fitzgerald's were. So no trade protection for Anthony Mantha. That is something that Devils fans are certainly going to like to see because that makes this a good bet on the player like Anthony Mantha that he is. But it doesn't come without its risks. Just finishing up on the contract side of this, the structure is pretty simple. It is $5.4 million in total salary in year one and $4.1 million in total salary in year two. So instead of increasing over time, it decreases over time, and that doesn't affect the cap hit, which is $4.75 million, but it does help potential buyers in terms of a trade in the future if it doesn't work out. And seeing that total dollars that is lower in the future, it makes it more appealing for an inquiring team if they wanted to acquire him. So it's good work again, like I said, by Sonny Meta to negotiate this contract that is really it's a good swing. So let's talk about the player himself. Mantha is a top six forward. He's a power forward type player. He's got a large build, 6'5", 230 plus pounds, but he does also carry the foot speed to lean into the strengths of the Devils. So he brings a little bit of that size that they've needed. He brings the speed that leans into their strengths. In terms of the kind of player he is, obviously he's a goal scorer, right? That size helps him a lot. He can battle for net front position. He can clean up the garbage goals, but he's also, the analytics really like him, right? He's in the 99th percentile in WAR last season, meaning he just contributes in all areas of the ice positively. He's got strong expected goals numbers. His primary assist rates are high, and he's got an eye-popping finishing ability with those 33 goals in last season. Not to mention, like I said, that speed that's real high. 22.9 miles per hour was his top speed last year. That's pretty high. And he's got a pretty hard shot at 96 miles per hour. So he uses his big frame to be a creative playmaker if he needs to, but he also uses it to, score goals in tight, battling for net from position, or to win battles behind the net, below the goal line, up on the board. So a lot to like about the kind of game that Anthony Mantha plays. It doesn't come without its risks, though, and we will talk about that in a second. So the assumption here is that Anthony Mantha, because he was a 30-plus goal scorer last season and, was a top six forward with the Pittsburgh Penguins, is that he's going to come to the Devils and play top six with probably the likes of Jack Hughes and Jesper Bratt. We kind of know that second line is going to be Meyer and Heischer. Perhaps it'll be player X, whether that's Dawson Mercer, who was there most of last season. This knocks Brown down a peg because he was playing on the top line with Jack and Jesper Bratt at the end of last season. So we'll see how Sheldon Keefe deploys the top six, but it does seem like Anthony Mantha is going to be the answer to the first line left wing. And now it gives Connor Brown the ability to go down into the middle six, which is going to really help improve the depth. Something that, Sonny Meta has emphasized this summer in terms of talking about the depth of the Devils. He gets Evan Rodriguez, Jesper Boquist is here, and now he adds Anthony Mantha, which allows Connor Brown to move down the lineup. So there's a lot of depth now in New Jersey, and because you get that top six forward, it only benefits everyone down the lineup who gets knocked down a peg. And in terms of Anthony Mantha himself, look, the Devils were not good at 5v5 scoring last year. Even strength play was not their strong suit in terms of scoring goals. And you go to Anthony Mantha's profile and you search up his goal scoring totals and you see 33 and that looks great. And you're like, well, I wonder how many goals does he score at even strength or does he score on the power play? He had 7 goals in the power play last year with the Pittsburgh Penguins. So that's, not horrible, but obviously most of his goals come from even strength, and that's a net positive for the Devils because it's something that they really struggled with in the 2025-26 season. So you're probably saying to yourself, well, this all sounds great, right? What's the risk? Why are we talking about is it worth it or not? Well, there is a bit of a situation here with Anthony Mantha's ability to stay healthy. And that's something that Devils fans know very well in terms of, having dealt with the health complications over the last several seasons. Obviously, Jack Hughes is one name that comes to mind who, is often hurt. And you wonder, are the Devils going to have to deal with that kind of thing with Anthony Mantha too? And I say this because in the 11 years that Anthony Mantha has been in the NHL, he's missed 179 games due to injury or illness, 178 to injury, one to illness in his career. So there is an injury history there for Anthony Mantha. Last season was great for him. He stayed healthy for, 81 games. He did not miss any all but one game, right? But in seasons previous, in 2024-25, he only played 13 games. He missed the majority of the season when he was playing for the Calgary Flames. And in 2023-24, across two teams, he played 74 games. So that's much better. But then there's 76 with Washington the year before that. 37 games the season prior, so he missed more than half the season. You have to go all the way back to 2017-18 for Anthony Mantha to have had a full season at 80 games playing for the Detroit Red Wings in 2017-18. That's a long time, and that's a long history of, injuries that are kind of consistent in Anthony Mantha's sample. So the injury factor is a thing, but then there is the other issue, I guess you can call it. I don't know if it's an issue, I would say, but there is one thing that you look at in Anthony Mantha's season last year, and it's his shooting percentage. And you say to yourself, well, he scored 33 goals. That's great, but he had a pretty bloated shooting percentage at 21.7%. Now, that is way above his career average at 13.8. He did shoot 2 seasons ago at 24.4% when he scored 23 goals on a total shots of 113. So it's not unlike Anthony Mantha to have a high shooting percentage, but his career average is 13.8% shooting percentage. And so you wonder, like, if he regresses to the mean a little bit here with the Devils, how bad could this get? Well, we did the math, and if Anthony Mantha scores at a 13.8 shooting percentage, the way he did, over the career, over his career on average, it's approximately 21 goals. So he would regress from 33 goals last season to 21 with the Devils if he regresses to the mean with his shooting percentage at his career average of 13.8. It's not awful right now. Look, he's going to be likely playing next to Jack Hughes and Jesper Bratt, and he's likely going to be set up for a ton of chances with those two players. Obviously, two of the best playmakers in the NHL, Jack Hughes being perhaps one of the best. You can perhaps call him a top 5 playmaker in the league, just in terms of the kind of creativity that he has. So, just a couple of tidbits there on why, although this contract that Sonny Meta signed Anthony Mantha looks great. There it doesn't come without its risks in terms of one, the injury history, and two, the shooting percentage, which you could see perhaps regressing a little bit if Anthony Mantha comes to the New Jersey Devils and scores 25 goals, and provides them with that even strength scoring that they didn't have last season necessarily. Look, this contract is going to be a win. It's just the fact of the matter is that he has to stay healthy. He has to be a first line top 6 presence with Jack Hughes and Jesper Bratt for it to be worth it. I think it's a low risk contract that Sonny Meta signed because it is not without it's without trade protection. It doesn't have any protection from trade. So Anthony Mantha, look, if it doesn't work, you can cut bait pretty quickly. And again, like I said earlier in the video, the cost is low. It's a $4.75 million average annual value. The cap is rising. It's up to 104 this season. It's only going higher after that. So this is a very, very tradable contract if it doesn't work out. You can easily cut bait with this player, but I think overall, just the kind of player Anthony Mantha is, he's a player that leans into the strengths of the Devils. He adds a little bit of size, which they need. He adds the 5v5 scoring, which if again, if he's healthy, they didn't have too much of that last season. So again, good contract, not without its risks. But I want to know what you guys think. Do you guys like the Anthony Mantha signing? 2-year contract, $4.75 million average annual value. Let me know what you think about the Devils' new top six forward who's likely going to be playing with Jack Hughes and Jesper Bratt in the comments below. And we'll see you on the next video.